Hello, everybody. Today, I wanted to share with you a most amazing digital artwork deck that I stumbled across a while ago, created by an artist from Texas named Taylor Ellis. And he came up with this wonderful self-published deck called the Ellis Deck. Now, it's created using modern technology. It's digitally created with it's really hard to come up to determine what style of it. I mean, it's a blend of retro, a modern, almost anime comic book style, fantasy art. Some of the cards remind me of the Aquarian Tarot that I used to work with years ago. A neat little deck by David Palladini. Also, some of the cards remind me of another deck, the Navigators of the Mystic Sea. So there's quite a varied style, which makes this deck especially interesting. Included with the deck is an extra card about the creator, about creator Taylor Ellis, and how he came to create this wonderful pack. Now, the cards themselves are black and white, and you consider them reversible except for one little thing, and that's the line of copyright in the lower right-hand corner of the card. So if you read with reversals, and if you can bring yourself to ignore that, then you can use them in reverse state. If I'm not mistaken, the earlier versions of this card, one half was black and one half was white. So I think it was one white cat and one black cat. They are cats. Possibly not, possibly people, but yeah. So the early versions were really non-reversible. So these are a little bit more reversible, with the exception of the copyright down there. Now, rather than a little white book, we have a little white pamphlet, and actually, it's a big white pamphlet, and it's titled "Reimagine Archetypes of the Traditional Tarot." So in the pamphlet, he has a forward introduction. And then it talks about the tarot, what the tarot is, how to get started, where to read, what difference between the major and minor arcana. And then he comes up with a few tarot spreads, the 4-card daily spread, and the horseshoe spread, which is actually a spread that I use, but his version has 7 cards instead of 6. And he has an extra position called correct action. And he states, the card in this position is a clue to what the best course of action is in relation to the inquiry made by the querent. So I kind of like that idea, and I may consider adding that to my standard horseshoe spread. So then we get on to the meanings. So for each of the majors, he includes a paragraph of text. With the minors, he gives a couple of lines for each card. So it's a nice little deck, a nice little booklet. Very thorough. And so with the cards, with the suits, one thing I found interesting is that there are animals connected with certain suits. For instance, the rods we have, which is the equivalent of the wands card. We see the fox depicted in many cards. So the fox pops up here and there throughout the deck. I think this one is especially cute. Foxes. So then once we move to the swords, I thought they were crows at first, but as it turns out, they're ravens. This is kind of cool, the 2 of swords, but the ravens covering her eyes, turning themselves into blindfolds. So the swords are ravens. The cups are actually seahorses, which is very cool. And I love the depiction of the seahorses in this suit. And then from the pentacles, we actually have the boar, which is a very earthy, solid, down-to-earth animal. So here we have the woman riding the boar. And then I think the boar pops up many different... 10 of pentacles and 2 boars here. So that's very cool. Now, the deck follows the standard Rider-Waite Smith tradition of 78 cards, with the Strength card being 8 and Justice being 11. The deck uses the standard wands, fire, swords, air symbology, although in this case, rather than wands, it's rods. And the suit of the minors are cups, rods, pentacles, and swords, which Taylor describes as representing emotion, spirit, matter, and thought, respectively. The court cards follow the standard Rider-Waite tradition of page, knight, queen, and king. And as for the cards themselves, the cards come with a very smooth, durable, matte finish with excellent card stock. I'm very, 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 very impressed with the card stock. They're not flimsy like some decks, especially the mass-produced ones these days, and they're not so thick that they're difficult to shuffle. They've held up pretty well for me thus far. Another thing I like is lately I purchased a few decks where the edges are very ragged and unpleasant to touch, but that's not the case with these. Very smooth edges. So this deck is a pleasure to hold and to work with. Now, in addition to the animals that I mentioned with the minor arcana, you also have different colored titles. Speaking of titles, I loved how the way he uses different fonts and capitalizations for the different cards. Almost every one is different, and different letters are capitalized, so that's very cool. But back to the title cards. So the rods have a brown title, the swords have a gray title, with cups having a blue, and pentacles having the green title. Regarding the swords, one thing I found really interesting, if you look at the sword cards in detail, every sword in the card has blood splattered on it. So these are not swords directly out of the sheath. These swords have been used. So I really like that extra little bit of information that the author provides. So in that way, some of the cards have a little darker feel to them. Think Deviant Moon kind of dark. Now, while much of the imagery has changed, a lot of the symbolism is still recognizable from the Rider-Waite-Smith tradition. For instance, we still have the Fool on the edge of the cliff with his dog venturing into unknown territory. The Magician with the representation of each of the four elements or each of the four suits in the deck. I find it cool that the Magician has 4 arms, and in each hand he's holding a symbol of the element. Very Shiva-like. Actually, he has 6 arms, doesn't he? Or is it 4? No, I think it's 4. Yeah, so a lot of the image symbolism remains the same, but there are some exceptions. One of them was, I remember the 6 of Pentacles, if I remember correctly. See, 5 of Pentacles, we still see the downtrodden people with chilly in the cold. But with the 6 of Pentacles, usually we see somebody handing out money or somebody receiving money, weighing the coins in the process. But here we have a money tree. So one person is collecting money or coins, and while the other person is watching in earnest, perhaps wondering whether this person is going to share with them or not. So I found that card kind of interesting. Another interesting card was the 8 of Pentacles. Usually we have a depiction of somebody hard at work in their workshop, manufacturing pentacles, coins, money. Here we simply have a bridge. So we have an idea of moving from one state to another, going from point A to point B, maybe moving from apprentice to expert or master. So I kind of like the symbolism with this card. So now I want to look at a couple of my favorite cards in the deck, and it's really hard to narrow down to a few because I love all the cards in this deck actually. But I think the Strength card is very cool. So here the person, I think it's a female, sitting on the back of a lion with a snake, holding a snake in one hand, although the snake doesn't look too happy. So you really get the idea here of taming wild beasts, taming wild things. Very neat. Now the Hermit card, here rather than standing on the edge of a cliff, the Hermit is riding on the back of a tortoise. Kind of reminded me of the Terry Pratchett Discworld novels, in which the entire world actually exists on the back of a giant tortoise flying through space. If you haven't read them, by the way, I recommend them. The Justice card. I like this. The Justice card is actually the only card of the deck that's black and white. So you get the idea of justice, either black or white. There's no in-betweens. Hanged Man. So rather than a man, we have here a rabbit hung upside down in a tree. You know, it might be a rabbit trap that he got himself into. So here we see him contemplating his situation, maybe trying to figure out how he ended up in such a dire predicament. So I really like the Death card here, and here he is holding an hourglass, and you know, how much time do you have left? According to the hourglass, not too much. But of course, you know, this doesn't mean death necessarily, as we all know. So we could interpret this card as how much time left before change. You can't continue on the path you're on. It's time to move into a different direction. One of my favorite cards of the deck is the Devil card. Very, very Capricornish with the depiction of goats instead of people. And here, the Devil, he mirrors the Magician card, in which he's also depicted with 4 arms, also holding each of the 4 elements. Except in the Devil card, the elements are upside down. So the sword is upside, the rod is upside down, the sword is upside down, and the cup is poured upside down with the contents flowing out of it, and the goats drinking from it. It really gives you a feeling of your loss of personal power here. So I really like this card. The Moon, very cool card with the reflection of possibly Gaia, the Earth Mother. See, all the cards are wonderful. So. And I think I mentioned the rods already. 8 of rods with fox faces. I think that's very cool. Into the swords, the blood-splattered swords. The 8 of swords is kind of cool. You know, usually we see this as somebody being tied up, bound, blindfolded. You get the feeling of being held in bondage and restricted from moving. Here she looks peaceful, almost happy, like she's accepted her fate. Or perhaps it gives you the idea that, you know, sometimes it's okay to slow down, to take a break from the rat race. You know, sometimes we need to meditate and regroup. So I really like this card. 9 of Swords is really interesting. So here, rather than the usual depiction of somebody worrying, you know, the Nightmare card, we have a monster coming out of her head and manifesting into the physical monster with multiple red eyes. So I love this idea of you turning your fears into a reality. Something we need to be careful of. I love the seahorses that are depicted in the suit of cups. The pentacles, the rabbit was kind of fun. The pentacles, I liked him. And then of course the 5 of pentacles. This time you see them walking in a barren landscape, so there's no buildings even. This almost looks a little bit more severe because you don't see that traditional church or building with the glowing light help inside. But you do see green here, so there is growth, so there is still potential. They just need to see it. The 8 of Pentacles, which we mentioned already. That was another one of the cards I really wanted to talk about. But they're all just stunning. And, you know, so if you're not a strict traditionalist and you like unique, interesting, out of the usual decks, then you can't go wrong with this one. I really, really love it. Now, I haven't used this deck yet for client readings, but I'm getting close. So I'm learning it. I'm working more with it. Been having a lot of fun playing around with it. The colors are amazing. The art's original, imaginative. I personally find it just a delight to read. And the richness of the art and colors makes it an ideal deck for people who read intuitively, I think. And those interested in fantasy and science fiction might also find this deck especially attractive. My recommendation is that this would be a welcome deck to anyone's collection. So highly recommended. So check out the Ellis deck. And I'll post the website on the video where you can check it out further. So thank you for watching. In case you don't know, I also have a daily tarot channel here on YouTube, where called the Daily Tarot Map, where I do a quick 3-card reading with tarot cards with a different deck every week and an oracle card. So I'll talk to you later. Bye.